Well, it was a pleasure की रोहिणी ताई एवढं चांगलं मराठी बोलतात. Sorry? I wish Pratibha and me were so good in Marathi, and I have some non-Marathi friends sitting in the audience and they'll rag me at the end of the day. But just to make things comfortable, well, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ajji.
It is such an honor. We've been obviously reading about Rohini for many years, and the more I thought about what we can talk about, I realized that one morning is just not enough. So I said, let's see whatever little we can do, we'll cover today, but we'll keep pinging her for more and more time. Though it is all about Rohini today and not about Nandan, but I thought let me start with a small.
Hello.
Who's that? I didn't know Pratibha sounded like that. So. There was a interview with Aditya Puri, the chairman of HDFC Bank, just a few days back, and he said there are the three things which will drive India to the next big level. We have one. Oh, sorry. Three things which will drive India to the next big level. The first being the digital initiative of a prime minister. Secondly, he said is Geo, because it's really giving access to a lot of people. And the third element which will really drive India in a big way is Mr. Rohini Nilekani. So let's give him a big hand, because this gentleman is just doing wonders. Honestly, I'm so happy that he's really stepped back out from Infosys, because it is not one company who deserves him, the whole nation. And today he's being consulted by leading banks all over the world. So he's really a global resource, and such a person should not be confined. So it's wonderful having you here. So let's start trying to understand a little bit now. Mazumdar did cover, but Rohini, understanding you come from a background where Baba Saheb was a Gandhian. Your mother's parents were they were well-to-do, had a funeral, so more of the capitalist, I would say. So was your childhood really divided? That on one side you had the complete socialist angle, while the other side you had. So how was it growing up? Was it?
So on my mother's side, my grandfather lived in Dahanu, big horticulturist, and in some sense a little bit of a feudal setup. We had the best childhood there, but I was always aware of it, because even there we had Varli tribals working on the farms, and I could see the difference between my carefree childhood and their lives. So I was always conscious of that. But we had the most wonderful, my grandfather, Tatya Sahib Karandikar, was also a very generous philanthropist, set up many educational institutions. And we had very carefree childhood with ambe, peru, and pineapple, ambe especially, and ambe and more ambe, and zambu, and everything you can think of, peru, that we used to help, and taught me a lot about rural life. At that time now it's like a suburb of Mumbai, Dahanu, but at that time it seemed very far away. There was a lot of zhadi, there was jungle also at that time, now there isn't. So I learned a lot there. And on this side, yes, very simple Gandhian roots, Samaaj Seva, your life is your message really. My grandfather's life was his message. So in some sense that taught me, and then living in Mumbai, I grew up in Mumbai, lived there till I got married. Actually, I had hardly left Mumbai. Mumbai itself was my teacher. Bombay, it was in those days, it was the most amazing city. It still is, but in those days, I think it was special because we cannot take for granted. Public infrastructure Mumbai. You could go safely from anywhere to anywhere. We had clean water running in our taps. We never had electricity shortages. Bombay was an amazing place. There was art, there was culture, there was the sea, public parks you could walk. There was safety, there was culture, there was good public infrastructure, decent government. So that was also one of my influences in my life. And I wish and hope that every single city in India will be like that old Mumbai, where everybody can mingle freely. It was not like the rich were living so differently from the poor. Just outside, we were middle class. Outside our homes, there were shanties, but there was intermingling. We would all eat pani puri in the same place. There were no separate pani puri walas for rich people and for poor. So it was a different country in some sense. And I think I benefited a lot from luckily being there at the right time. And but always my paternal grandfather, बाबासाहेब सोमण, त्यांचा आदर्श नेहमी आमच्या पुढे ठेवला गेला की सिम्पल लिव्हिंग अँड हाय थिंकिंग. ऑफकोर्स पुढे पुढे जाऊन सिम्पल लिव्हिंगचं नाही ठेवू शकलो, हाय थिंकिंगचा थोडासा प्रयत्न चालू आहे. पण सो वन थिंग आय लर्न इज हाऊ टू होल्ड कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन्स. Life is not simple. There is no such thing only black and white. There are many grays. How to occupy those grays without getting confused? Things are true on all sides. How can we use our viveka buddhi, our discriminatory intelligence to not blindly believe some things, but think for ourselves? I think having everything in the same family helped me to find that middle path.
So nice. Good thing you said that you didn't believe in black and white. Does that work at home with Rohan? Oh, I'm sorry, it's Nandan, right? You always think that Rohini's husband must be Rohan. So.
मला खूप लोक नंदिनी असं म्हणतात. त्यांना वाटलं नंदनची बायको कोण असेल, नंदिनीच असणार. मग मी म्हणते नंदनला रोहन का नाही म्हणत तुम्ही? रोहिणीचा नवरा कोण असेल? रोहन असायला हवा. त्यामुळे ते मला आता असं म्हणून दाखवत आहे. थँक्यू. तुम्हाला धन्यवाद रोहन म्हटल्याबद्दल.
And I'm glad he's not in the audience, so I don't want to lose my Aadhaar. But you took up journalism as a career, and again coming to a bit of the ideology, and I may be wrong, but largely journalism is a left-oriented profession, right? Means you're a rebel, you're against, and it's good, as they say, right? If by age of 20, if you're not a leftist, you don't have a heart. So, and we had the influence of the Raj Kapoor films those days when we were growing up. Poor people.
India was a socialist.
We were, right? So poor people were good, the rich were bad, and you became rich.
Yeah.
So did it hurt you?
Yes, I was very confused because in socialist India growing up, we always thought the wealthy people, how you became wealthy, some gadbad hai. So we used to always have this little thing that, because it's true in the license Raj, crony capitalism was very rampant. It was very hard. Even if you wanted to do business honestly, it was not so easy because of the, the restrictions, the licenses, the arbitrariness of decision making. Some parts of it continue, but the point is that time before the economy opened up, there was a feeling that one of my friends used to say, "Oh, Pedder Road, sab log smugglers hi hai Pedder Road jo rehte." I said, "How can you say that?" No, like that only. So that feeling was there. And then in the 90s, middle 90s, suddenly we only became rich suddenly. And I said, "Oops, now what to do? Now how to behave? How should the rich behave? संपत्तीची जबाबदारी काय असते? आपण कसे वागायला पाहिजे? I know I'm not bad, that the wealth was made ethically. So I had to change my mind and perception on a lot of things and start thinking more deeply about what is the responsibility of wealth in a society."
Thanks.
So I will next.
But I know you're dying to ask about Nandan. I'm okay to talk about my husband. I am also a president of his international fan club, which I only am saying.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
but
We will come to him. That
No, but you also have a fan club. Most of us here are.
Thank you, so sweet.
So Rohini, I'll take it
We
on
can't
a
hear you so well.
So I'll take it on a lighter. So I will continue with the point which Mr. Muzumdar talked about your college, right? तिकडे एल्फिस्टन कॉलेजमध्ये तुमचं
लोकमान्य टिळक होते. मी असताना नाही, पण मी एवढी म्हातारी.
सो त्याच्यावर होतं कॉम्पिटिशन. व्हॉट वॉज दॅट? व्हॉट वॉज हाऊ वॉज द स्टोरी अराउंड?
So in December 21st, 1977, we had Elphinstone College Day. I was not on the quiz. I was singing a song, निगाहें मिलाने को जी चाहता है. अब मुझे मालूम नहीं था कि निगाहें मिलेंगी.
I think after this you'll have to sing.
गा रही थी. और my college must be a little masochistic because they had called the IIT team as the competitor for our quiz team. Guess who won? So Nandan's team won and defeated us hollow. And that's how we met actually.
So
that was
was that the last time Nandan lost or the first time he started the losing game?
That you have to ask him.
Ask him. Okay, we'll do that.
No, but seriously, it was the first time we met and somebody else I knew him. So we were part of a big gang. Then we became part of a foursome. Then we became part of a twosome. And now it is 45 years since I met him, yeah.
Wow. Fantastic journey. I'm sure fantastic
46
journey.
years, yeah.
So then when you guys were, I would say dating, was that the right word?
Sort of. We were very innocent in those days. All this dating, betting was...
आवाज नहीं आते? आता? I'm soft spoken. सो तेव्हा त्या काळात म्हणजे अ गर्ल चुझिंग हर ओन पार्टनर और बॉय चुझिंग वॉज नॉट अ रिअली ॲक्सेप्टेबल थिंग बाय समाज इन युअर वर्ल्ड.
No, remember I lived in Mumbai. Mumbai was quite modern.
हो का? आम्ही पण मुंबईची आहे पण मला डिफिकल्टी होती. तर सो त्या काळात म्हणजे दॅट डज दॅट मीन दॅट यू ऑल हॅड अ स्मूथ
No.
एक्झॅक्टली सो आय लाईक टू नो अ लिटल बिट अबाउट हाऊ यू
No, so when I told my mother was quite broad-minded, of course, but still she was a little worried because if you all had met Nandan at that time, you would have also been little bit worried because he had like uncombed hair, Hawaii chappals. He wouldn't talk very much. He wouldn't like my other friends used to say to my यमू मावशी कसे आहात तुम्ही आईस्क्रीम बनवता किती छान असतं वगैरे वगैरे आम्हाला भेळ बनवून द्या. Nandan would just smile shyly at her, so she had no idea what is inside this. And after you look at his Hawaii chappals and his uncombed hair, she must have said, is this the right man for my daughter? But then slowly she got convinced. Then after we got married, she got so convinced that she forgot about me. And Jamai Bapu Zindabad, always only looking at Jamai Bapu was the greatest thing in the world.
Wow.
आता काय करणार आपल्याच आईने असं केलं तर.
तुम्हाला पण ॲक्सेप्ट करावंच लागलं. सो गोईंग अहेड तुमचं लग्न झालं ऑफकोर्स आणि त्याच्यानंतर in 80s, early 80s, Infosys was formed
Yes.
with 7
No, same time
people.
as my marriage. Same
Same
time.
time is
When
it?
we were
लग्न
engaged,
कोणत्या वर्षी झालं?
1980 we were engaged.
लगेच
And when we were
वर्षाने.
engaged, only Narayan Murthy had asked these 5 or 6 young, Raghavan was not young, but the others were young. And Nandan came immediately home to me and said, I want to ask you something. Mr. Murthy has said we should all start a company together, and that's risky because I have to leave my job. We don't know if in those days the startup culture of Koramangala was not there. So you can become unicorn in 15 minutes, aisa kuch nahi tha. So do you want to do this? And we were so young and there was no it was easy to take that risk. I said, of course you must do it because you have to try everything at that young age. If not now, when?
Yes.
So then he joined that team.
Yeah.
And in 81, we got married also in Infosys ची स्थापना also झाली.
So it started at the same time. Great. पण तेव्हा म्हणजे इट वॉज सच अ न्यू फील्ड सो टू से राईट. कम्प्युटर्स अजून मला वाटतं इंडियामध्ये इंट्रोड्यूस पण नव्हते झाले.
I mean, first, yeah.
आणि अजून मला वाटतं दूरदर्शन राजच होता तेव्हा.
Yes, very much.
So I mean going into a field like that, supporting your husband to be husband then. To be husband then. हाँ. Okay. सवय नहीं है. तो टू बी हस्बैंड देन कि you also took your savings out and you kind of took equity or took equity in that company. So I mean that you just talked about that you were confident about Nandan.
About Nandan.
Yeah. So the smart guy, not so wealthy, but the smart guy is what made you invest. Is that what we can consider?
No, we were in love. Of course, he was very smart.
That plays a role.
And even if you're starting a shoe shine shop, I would have invested in him. It just happens to be that he became lucky. I mean, you need a lot of luck to be successful also, apart from being smart and deeply committed. That's the other thing you need. So I had 10,000 rupees. 5,000 rupees had been given by my parents at the time of my wedding. And 5,000 rupees was my grand saving from my job at Bombay Magazine, where my salary was 450 rupees, which went to this princely sum of 700 rupees. So whatever savings I had, that is all I had. And when they said, we need to invest put in a little more equity. In fact, Nandan didn't have money. Patni, some salaries we were using, he was using it every day. I was living in my parents' house before marriage, so I had no expenses. So I was able to put that 10,000 rupees into Infosys in 1981, somewhere after that. And then, actually, that is what allowed me to become independently wealthy in some sense.
I mean, we are all appreciating that today.
Well, it's good that the two ladies, Mrs. Sudhamurthy and Rohini, had 10,000 rupees with them, because these men were broke and we wouldn't have seen this company come up. I wish I had that 10,000 when they went IPO. I would have also been doing philanthropy. So
it's true.
Coming to, it's a strange coincidence, right? Infosys is really known for two men, though obviously there are many others like Chris, Gopalakrishnan there, Raghavan. But largely it's NRN and Nandan are the two faces. And surprisingly, the two women who were really in the forefront are Sudhamurthy and Rohini.
No, I do want to make a case for, all the women of Infosys, the founders' spouses, incredible women, incredibly generous, each one doing very interesting things. So just that they are not so much in the public because they don't talk as much as Sudha and I do, but they do amazing work. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, she's an urban farmer. She's the most passionate urban farmer. She has so much knowledge about everything. Asha Dinesh, not only do they do tremendous philanthropy, especially in education, but she's also running her own successful business in organic beauty products. And Kumari Shibulal is an institution by herself. She's running schools. They do phenomenal scholarships. So each and every one of them is Jamuna Raghavan, again an institution, incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly generous, has started a restaurant in Singapore. It does a lot of annadan. She actually arranges to cook kilos and kilos of food, especially during the pandemic, every day herself, and giving it to people who needed it. Each one of them, I want you to know, because they don't publicize themselves, I do want you to know, because there is something that we hold dearly as values of Infosys. The values of Infosys are to us more important than the wealth of Infosys. And each and every one of them, and all the employees also, I don't want to leave them out, almost everybody treats their wealth as trustees and does something for society. And that's what I would be most proud of about Infosys more than anything else.
Fantastic. Let's give it a break. I think that we really wanted to hear this because there's so much of work we've done which doesn't come to the public domain. We don't really know about it. So the founders who created the company hold less than 5% of the company, and they're just involved in giving away whatever they have. I think it's a wonderful culture Infosys got into. And even a small thing, I think a friend of ours arranged small thing we arranged at the Mysore Zoo on adoption. And majority of the boards there was for Infosys employees who were, pulled in. So a big thanks to all such wonderful people that this.
Okay, I have a question regarding the wealth. So, as you said, you have become suddenly rich. There's a lot of money, and what we know is Nandan and you both have pledged most of your wealth towards philanthropy. How easy or difficult was it to take that decision? And let me just tell you why I'm asking this particular question is because in last 10 years, we have seen many founders get rich. Yeah, they've got, founders have exited, they've got rich. There are mergers happening, they've got rich. Then there's been this idea to becoming rich kind of a situation. Many founders, but we have not heard many philanthropists or giving back to the society much. So how easy is or difficult again was it for you and Nandan to take this pledge?
So we had already decided a long time ago. I mean, honestly, and there are many studies all over the world to show it. After a point, wealth has diminishing utility for your personal self. I mean, how many things can you own? And I tell you, I'm not going to pretend. We live a very good life. But okay, fine, what more can you do when you have this kind of ridiculous wealth? Actually, the kind of wealth that a few people in this world make, it's a little something wrong with the system that so few people can make so much money. And those few people, 10 generations also cannot use that wealth. And all around you in a country like India, you're saying how much need there is, not just the need of people, but the need to build institutions, the need to innovate, the need to do so many things to take this country forward. So for us, that was definitely already in our minds. But to go public with it, it took us a long time. खूप विचार करायला लागला आम्हाला, कारण आपण नेहमी म्हणतो आपल्या संस्कृतीत काय म्हणतो, लेफ्ट हँड शुड नॉट नो व्हॉट राईट हँड इज गिव्हिंग. आणि मग आता तिथे जाऊन असं पब्लिकली सांगायचं, बघा आम्ही किती म्हणजे दानी लोक आहोत, आम्ही असं प्लेज घेतो. मग माझ्या लक्षात, म्हणून थोडी वर्ष लागली मला public व्हायला. Then I realized, no, in this new India, where wealth creation is a good thing because you cannot distribute, how can you distribute poverty? You have to distribute wealth, so you have to create wealth in society and the economy first. So wealth creation is a good thing. But what kind of wealth creation? How is that wealth created and how is that wealth used? I began to believe that we need very clear signaling. That yes, we have wealth, anyway it is public, it is known, we pay our taxes, the wealth is transparent, that wealth cannot be used only for the wealthy people alone, because it's not because of us that we became wealthy. 100 things had to happen before we could accumulate so much wealth. So that wealth, if we can think, at least some of it is to be held as trustees. Then I said, it is important to publicly declare that we will give away at least 50% in our lifetime. Hopefully we will give more, but it's not very easy to give away. But I hope more people will come out and make those pledges. Right now only 4 Indians have done it. I hope there will be 100. No.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'll tell you, many people who are not so wealthy as us, a lot of them, there is something called living my promise. So people who don't have so much money as me, who are comfortable upper middle class, they have also come out and said, we will give away half our wealth, and some have said we will give away 80% of our annual income every year. I think that is more admirable than this, but that doesn't mean we let the big wealthy people in India go. We have to keep public pressure on the extremely wealthy of India to give forward. And आपण सगळ्यांनीच प्रेशर दबाव ठेवायला पाहिजे लोकांवर. मला कोणीतरी परवा म्हणालं, तुम्ही असं मला सांगताय की यू शुड गिव्ह अवे मनी, पण माझ्या पैशापासूनच माझा स्टेटस येतो आणि तुम्ही म्हणताय पैसे देऊन टाका. मी म्हटलं असं तुम्हाला आत्ता वाटतंय, थोड्यापर्यंत ठीक आहे, स्टेटससाठी वेल्थ वगैरे ठीक आहे, त्याच्यानंतर तुम्हीच विचार करा, हु आर द पीपल हुम यू रिअली एडमायर, the ones who accumulated wealth or the ones who gave it away. So when you talk of status also maybe, so a little culture shift is happening. The young wealthy are very generous, like Nitin Kamath and all. They have committed a lot. I know many young or these new startup people who have come into wealth. They are going to say, we are not going to wait till our hair becomes white. We are going to start giving money now, and they keep coming to us to say, how should we do this fast? So I have a lot of hope in the young generations.
Such a wonderful thought. You know, we always felt the greatest thing Nanda and Rohini have contributed is the great IT sector, which India is well known, but you know, this is far beyond anything, this thought process. You know, recently we were discussing on one group where we rarely agree on anything, but one thing we agreed upon, if the next Nobel is coming to India, it should be for these couple. So I think we do hope it is our love for you. So.
No, I don't want to comment on it.
Let's move on to some of your other initiatives. I think, you know, Mr. Muzumdar did discuss about a lot of things, but you know, how passionate have you been about writing? And I think Pratham has been a wonderful success. There was this book called The National Haircut Day, right? There was some strange author called Noni who had written it, and yeah, it became very popular. It was a very strange coincidence, right? Rohini and Noni sounded familiar, but would like to know more about that author. What the author felt about it.
अगदी लहान वयापासून मला लिहिण्याची खूपच शौक होता पहिल्यापासूनच. I used to write really bad poetry when I was young, and I used to make other people listen to it. So, but that luckily when I set up Pratham Books, we found that children needed thousands of books, and there are not thousands of authors in India. Imagine in a country that tells stories to their children every night from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, or whatever else. There were not enough people whom we could find to write stories for children. So we had to break the model open and just think of a completely new way to disrupt the publishing industry for children, which luckily we were able to do. But at that time, Madhav Chavan, Rukmini Banerjee and I, who were all part of the team at Pratham, who decided to start Pratham Books, we started to write stories ourselves. And so I found it was so satisfying to write for very little children, and then when any child really picked up a book and loved it, that just made my whole year. That has been the single most joyful part of my work in the last 30 years, to be able to write for little children.
That book, ladies and gentlemen, did extremely well, very popular book, and we have Noni with us here.
If you have grandchildren, please look it up. All these books are completely free online. The book is called Annual Haircut Day, and the character is Sringeri Srinivas.
Yes. And we have the author Noni out here sitting with us. Let us come to a topic which has been very close to your heart, that we keep hearing Nandan also speak. You've been a very responsible part of the Samaaj. For quite a few years you were Sarkaar, right? When Nandan was a cabinet minister.
Nandan, yeah.
All your wealth comes from Bazaar, but you're still very Samaaj oriented. So but you don't seem to be very fond of Sarkar, because you are normally critical about the power the Sarkar holds, and though you've been a part of sort of.
No, I've been very lucky to have a ringside seat, Samaaj because of my work in the civil sector, Bazaar because of Infosys and being able to travel all over the world with Nandan and meet people from large and small corporations. And luckily, ringside seat into how Sarkar functions as well, because he was in the UIDAI for 5 years, and also because of the many partnerships with government we have done in our various avatars for 30 years. I am certainly not critical of this Sarkar or that Sarkar. What my philosophy in the book is, Samaaj is the foundational sector, Samaaj is the knee. Sarkar and Bazaar आले कुठून? To serve Samaaj. आता नाही कितीतरी मिलेनियम हजारो वर्षांपूर्वी first barter through barter and then through other systems, the bazaar came up so that all of us in the Samaaj can exchange goods and establish value in a neutral way. And then it grew into the largest transnational companies of the last century. So bazaar kept on growing, but the original idea of bazaar and today idea remains, bazaar is there to serve Samaaj. Samaaj is not there to serve bazaar. We are not consumers first, we are citizens first. The bazaar has to respond to us. And when bazaar accumulates too much power, especially monopolistic power, it is not at all good for the consumers of the Samaaj. That is the clear philosophy I have. And similarly, Sarkar kuthun आलं, Raje Maharaje आले कुठून? समाजातूनच तर आले ना? Then Samaaj only allowed Maharajas to become so powerful that, you know, there was all kinds of systems where किती शोषण व्हायचं समाजात, because we allowed the Rajas and Maharajas to become so powerful. Today we don't have Rajas and Maharajas, we have other kinds of authoritarian governments all over the world. So I'm not talking about this government or the previous government or the future government. I am talking about the idea of government. Sarkar has been also made for Samaaj. So Samaaj has to be strong enough to hold the bazaar and the Sarkar accountable to the Samaaj. Otherwise power will accumulate. Not because this person is the prime minister, that person is the chief minister, that person is the president. No. Power accumulates easily. That is a human failing. So Samaaj has to be active to say, of course we need the bazaar, of course we need the Sarkar. Without that, Samaaj will break up. But it is a continuum, Samaaj, Sarkar, Bazaar. And Samaaj's role is to be active and alert, so that Bazaar and Sarkar serve the Samaaj and don't make Samaaj serve the Bazaar and Sarkar. That is my simple philosophy. So all, whether I'm working in water, education, health, anything, that is the idea. How can we make Samaaj, that is all of us, more active to solve our own problems, to understand how Bazaar and Sarkar are functioning and make sure they are actually working for the larger public interest of the Samaaj. It is really as simple as that.
Mr. Muzumdar also said, I think it's a must read for everyone. I was very happy to read these books, and kudos to your colleague, I'm sorry, I forget his name, who had coined this term where you picked up
Prem Kumar Verma,
Premji,
long
yeah.
ago, yeah.
It's a really wonderful book. Coming to Samaaj, we all love Bangalore, right? It's in our heart. Everything the city has given us. One thing which we are also very critical is the infrastructure. And you quoted some examples like, say, Chile, Santiago, so what do you think went wrong with Bangalore? And is there a fix to it, or we to just like accept that this is the New York of India and it's going to be this way?
No, Bangalore became like a teenager running on high hormones. It doesn't know, it's suddenly growing, one legs are becoming longer, just not knowing, suddenly we're shooting up and becoming tall, unable to deal with that stage of growth. So I think they're in transition phase. Bombay went through that and now has somewhat stabilized, and in fact has really innovated the satellite towns around Bangalore. Thane and all have become quite amazing. Bangalore will also become like that, but we are in transition. It will take a minimum of 10 years. Right now it looks like we are in the dressing room of a theatre production. Everybody is changing, putting on makeup, and we are waiting for everyone to come on stage and to see the finished production that is going to be Bengaluru, Namma Uru. But we have to all contribute. We cannot sit back, no matter where you stay and where you live, you cannot sit back and expect Bangalore to improve without our civic participation. It is impossible. So luckily Bangalore people are very civic minded. I know hundreds of people who spend hundreds of hours a month helping the state and local government to improve the city. God bless them all, and we all should do what we can, even if we do only this much or if we can do more. Otherwise, this is our city. We have to take ownership of improving it. 10 years. Let's wait 10 years.
Wow. And here I think you prove that Samaaj is so important.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah. And this is a question regarding, we just talked about the donation you have done to NIMHANS for mental health. So and you have also donated a lot of money to many other initiatives, many other organizations. So what is the criteria, or how do you look at an organization, an NGO, before you do the donation?
So one thing, Amala, I believe in very strongly, that you have to begin with Vishwas. You have to begin with trust. If you begin with trust, you're likely to end up with more trust. If you begin with suspicion, you're likely to end up with low trust relationships. So we try to begin with trust. We do, obviously, some basic diligence, like they have to have high integrity, their finances have to be transparent, their leadership has to have high integrity, their ideas and commitment have to be good, whichever sector I support. So these are the three things we look for: good people, good ideas, good institution and leadership, and absolute deep passion and commitment to whatever sector they are working in. Luckily, India madhe, we have so many good civil society organizations. Prevent poaching, to help our forest workers who work day and night to keep our reserved areas safe. They work on protecting endangered species like our turtles. They look at how fishing can be more sustainable. They are preventing air pollution. They are picking up solid waste left by tourists all over the Himalayas. All kinds of work these organizations are doing with their whole ji jaan se, and we help them, because I think unless we all understand that we cannot separate ourselves from what is happening in the environment, especially the younger people in the room, actually the prognosis is not very good for the future of young people. We have to get involved. It's the most critical human decade in history, and we have very little time to push for our sustainable development goals and protect our environment. In India, I feel very proud, and we all should feel proud. It is probably among the top 5 countries, if not the top country, that has protected its biodiversity in spite of so much population pressure and land pressure. I sincerely hope that our old cultures and traditions will help us to continue to understand how sacred nature is, that we are part of nature and we are trustees of nature now. And if we heal nature, nature will heal us back. So that is my most passionate environment project, as you can see.
Well, let's give her a big hand. I think you spent like 80...
We will do some interaction, okay?
We will.
have already
The
talked for a long time.
I think, yeah, because I wanted to come to this, good you led me to the environment. You spent a lot of time in Kabini, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, in one of the interviews...
I'm going tomorrow morning.
Oh, wonderful. Someone asked Rohini, what is the best time that you feel? And she said that the time I spend in the jungle is really... And actually the same question came to Nandan, and he gave exactly the same answer. That the best time he has when Rohini is in the jungle. So there's this. Yeah, we have friends out here who met a guy called Giri Kavle.
Yes.
And he keeps raving that how much you love that. How has been your experiences at Kabini, and what is that people could look forward to? I think the only problem is Kabini is getting prohibitively expensive.
I agree.
So,
no, a lot needs to change so that more people can go into our wilderness. But you don't have to go to Kabini. Luckily in India there is wilderness everywhere. Bangalore is getting more difficult to find wilderness, but there is wilderness inside Bangalore. Just yesterday I was at IISc. All our institutions have kept their biodiversity intact, and many places you can go. IISc itself has 200 bird species that have been recorded, hundreds of tree species that are not available. That's just one example. So even in Bangalore, you can find wilderness, and you can create it even in your own balcony. Just one pot can give you so many things. But yeah, it is expensive to go on safari, and especially Kabini, because there are some specific rules to Karnataka. Other states is easier. But yeah, in the pandemic, we found that a lot of marriages either survived and became stronger or broke down. In our case, our marriage became very much stronger, and that's what Nandan said. Half the time she was in Kabini, so our marriage became very, very strong. So, but I would say that, especially for young people, urban people, because we have become derooted from nature, to reconnect with that. I think they yearn for it also. We have to make it much more easy and much more possible. One Lal Park and one Kabban Park is not enough for Bangalore. We need 1,000 more such very large parks. And there is some imagination of it coming about. But all of us can help by even planting one tree. There are some अशा प्रथा होत्या की एक पिंपळाचं झाड, एक वडाचं झाड आणि एक नीमचं झाड लावलं तर you can get direct access to the heavens. So we can at least try to plant one out of those three so we can get 1/3 of the way there.
Well, as she pointed out, I think Pratibha spoken a lot, so let the audience speak a little bit. Any questions from the audience? Yes, please. I'm to handle the mic. I'm sorry we took a little extra time, so 5 more minutes.
हो नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
खूप सिरियस विषयांवर इथं बोलणं झालं, पण गंमत म्हणून मी एकदा तुमच्याशी भांडलेलो आहे.
अच्छा.
तर म्हटलं थोडी गंमत आणावी.
नक्कीच. काही मला आश्चर्य वाटत नाही. मी थोडी भांडकुदळच आहे.
हो, आणि हाच प्रश्न मी तुम्हाला विचारला होता आणि तेव्हा विचारलं होतं की तुम्ही पुण्याच्या का हो. आपली भेट व्हॅली स्कूलमध्ये पेरेंट टीचर्स मीटमध्ये झाली आणि त्यावेळेला विषय असा होता की मुलांनी वर्तमानपत्र वाचावं का नाही. तर तुम्ही त्यावेळेला उत्तर असं दिलं होतं की आता वर्तमानपत्र नका उघडू, तुम्ही कॉम्प्युटर उघडा, सगळं तिथे दिसेल तुम्हाला. आता पुस्तकच पाहिजे असं नाही, तुम्ही कॉम्प्युटर का नाही वापरत, आणि त्या विषयावर आपलं भांडण झालं.
अच्छा, मजा आली असेल. मला आठवत नाही. परत भांडूया मग, मजा येईल.
तर कमिंग बॅक टू व्हॅली स्कूल, तुम्ही आता जे एन्व्हायरमेंट रिलेटेड इश्यूज म्हणत आहात, व्हॅली स्कूलचे तुमचे बरेच वर्षाचे संबंध आहेत, अजूनही आहे, माझेही आहे. तर आज
इनामदार गेल्याचं खूप दुःख वाटतं.
सतीश भाऊ म्हणजे माझे एक वडीलच समजायचे, त्यांच्यामुळे मी आज आहे इथं. व्हॅली स्कूलचा जो परिसर तुम्ही बघितलात आज, की तुम्ही जे सगळे इश्यूज मेन्शन केलेत की बायोडायव्हर्सिटी, पक्षी, अमुक ठमुक सगळं, जे चारी बाजूनी आज ते घेरलं गेलेलं आहे तो कॅम्पस, तीच परिस्थिती आज सगळ्या बंगलोरची आहे असं मला वाटतं. की म्हणजे तिथे फक्त ते व्हॅली स्कूल पुरतं मर्यादित आहे असं नाही आहे. तर एक संस्था म्हणून तुम्ही काम करता, पण ते जेव्हा शाळेच्या लेवल, प्रायमरी एज्युकेशन लेवलपासून ते काम सुरू व्हायला पाहिजे, आणि त्याच्या बाबतीत काय करता येईल किंवा तुमचे काय इनिशिएटिव्स आहेत त्याच्या बाबतीत?
अबाउट प्रायमरी एज्युकेशन यू मीन?
नाही, एन्व्हायरमेंट रिलेटेड.
Environment for young children.
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of the work actually reaches directly through several organizations like Dakshin, even A-Tree, Nature Conservation Foundation, Center for Wildlife Studies, Wildlife, WCT, many of these organizations that we are lucky to support, many of them have outreach programs for children, and through the Diksha platform, which Xstep helped the government to set up, which is a national education platform, tithe now there is going to be a lot more content on environmental things for teachers also to learn better in an atomized way when they need it to teach children better. So we will be seeing a lot more of, and already a lot of very good programs for children. They are taking them out of the classroom into nature. We need much more of that. Valley School is a very blessed place with 100 acres. Municipal schools, government schools, they don't have those luxuries. But somehow there is a lot more happening to take children out into the wild and give them much, much better content to understand our interdependence on the environment. So, and we have to start early, the earlier the better. माझा नातू तनु 6 वर्षाचा आहे. तो मागच्या वर्षी आहे, त्याच्या आईला म्हणाला I want to, मला इन्नी म्हणतो. He said, I want to know more than inni about animals. And I'll tell you now, he's my guru. He knows much more about animals than I do. So I think this generation, this young generation, somehow several of them have instinctively understood the need to reconnect to the environment. So fingers crossed, in these 30 years, it will be these young people who will change the model of development, and maybe there may be a much more mindful, less mindlessly consumptive generation emerging. At least we can all help in any way to make that happen.
I agree. My question is, coming from situations like valley schools or big institutions and so on and so forth, but when it comes to government schools, they absolutely had no idea whatsoever की काय आहे, पर्यावरण काय आहे, काय माहितीच नाही. त्या लेवलपर्यंत तुम्ही केव्हापासून, तेव्हाच तो बेस ब्रॉड होईल असं मला वाटतं. एका व्हॅली स्कूल पर्यंत लिमिटेड राहून ते चालणार नाही.
नाही, अजिबातच नाही. आणि तोच आमचा प्रयत्न आहे. प्रथम जी संस्था आहे ती सुद्धा, इट रीचेस thousands of schools in the country. Government itself has realized this, but you are right. The poor people of this country, the poor children of this country are actually the most dependent on natural resources. And it is in their interest more than the interest of the elite. आपल्याला पॅन्डेमिक मध्ये मस्त वाटलं, वा किती छान वातावरण आहे वगैरे, पक्षी बघा दिसतायत, आवाज नाहीये, air has become cleaner. That's all fine. But it's actually the poor who need better environment than even all of us. So whatever we can do it's a very important point you are making. How do we enable? लोक म्हणतात, म्हणजे especially western donors वगैरे म्हणतात, don't give a man a fish, teach a man how to fish. All that is fine. पण आज काय होत चाललंय, the fisher, they know how to fish. We should not assume that our people don't know how to fish. They are very smart, they know how to fish. They don't have access to the lake. That is what we have to ensure. How can we ensure that especially the poor, whose lives are dependent on environmental resources, clean water, clean air, access to natural resources, access to the forest, how do we enable them? Because they are the ones that will regenerate the environment in a sustainable manner, so that even all of us sitting with our iPads and our phones, because all that depends on, all our economic resources come from the ecological resources. So we also depend on the poor getting better access. These connections, these big dots, we have to join to make the bigger picture, I think.
Very true. Can we take a last question? Sorry. Maybe last two, Rekha.
Hello. Namaste, मी निर्मला प्रभू म्हणून.
Namaste.
I am a veteran academician. I have been a teacher for many years. And now I am on a mission. कारण पॅन्डेमिकच्या वेळेला काय झालं होतं की मुलं, they got weaned away from the books and they were hooked on to the screen. आणि त्यावेळेला मी इथे नव्हते. I was not in India. I was abroad. And मला असं वाटलं की I should write a book. आणि त्यावेळेला मी एक बुक लिहिलं. And I had parents contacting me and asking me ki tumhi, can you do something for the children in reading? And I published a program in which I made the children do find the budding novelist in you. I made this program when I was there, and of course Manik Tai from Swakruta Charitable Trust, this was released on Women's Day, and today I am on a mission. In fact, my workshops are starting tomorrow. I am training the village level teachers to take this program ahead, and in Andhra it has been translated into Telugu, and I'm planning to get it translated in Marathi, and there is a person who's doing that for me in Maharashtra and all that. So I feel that children should be weaned away, and they should, because ultimately we grew up with stories, and story is something which builds up the imagination, and today to wean the child away from the screen is such a big problem for parents, and they always come up to me. So I wanted to ask you, is there any way we can take this forward in in a bigger way, where I can help, because I have been doing teacher training, and I have been helping teachers to understand. So every concept I have converted into a story.
Thank you. So there are a lot of organizations doing work like yours, but very simply from what I know right now is there is a lot of new public libraries programs coming up where physical books will be distributed so that children especially need physical books. I am not against digital technology at all. I think some of us, we are old-fashioned, so we think the digital age is here to stay. There are going to be digital citizens, there are already digital natives, and we must use technology also for good. Whether you get a story in preferably in physical form, but you also need a story even if it comes in digital form. But for you, for your project, on storyweaver.org.in, any of your budding novelists who write a story, they can put it up themselves completely for free on that website, and that website has tens of millions of readers, so you never know whether those books will become popular. So please use storyweaver.org.in.
Story River.
We'll send it to you later.
शिक्षण पण जास्त आहे, अर्निंग कपॅसिटी पण जास्त आहे. हे सगळं असताना सुद्धा मानसिक आरोग्यावर इतकं लक्ष द्यावं लागतंय किंवा ते सफर करतात, याची एक 2-3 मुख्य कारणं समाजातून अशी पॉइंट आउट करता येतील का?
So very broadly, it's not my opinions. This is what we found out in our research. There is definitely a breakdown of community. And that's very sorry, मला हे मराठीमध्ये सांगताना कधी जर का चुका झाल्या तर मग I won't be able to make my point. One is breakdown of community. How can we restore community? I think it's very important in society. The second thing is the effect of social media has been devastating for young people. Lot of good has happened, a lot of bad has happened. So for us to be able to keep communication lines open with young people is 100% the most critical thing that we can do with. And the only way the communication line will be open is if we are not judgmental. If we keep our opinions and our judgments and then we talk to them, they will not talk to us, no question about it. If we have to keep those lines open, first we have to work on ourselves as older people. So communication, I think community, social media, how to use, they get very confused. And I think unnecessary pressure young people are putting on themselves. Unnecessary, even parents are not putting as much pressure as young people are putting on themselves. These are the 3 things we are reading about through the research that is happening. And again, I feel Samaaj has to learn to respond. आपण एका transition period मध्ये आहोत. आत्ताच the digital age सुरू झालाय. 15 वर्ष is nothing in human history, नाही का? So I think we are in a space where we will learn how to behave in the digital sphere. New social norms, paddhati, अशा येतील culture, नवीन culture येईल. I have been saying that we have reached peak polarization. म्हणजे people are fed up of all the hate and viciousness and insults and anonymous rubbish that is going on social media. I believe we have reached the peak of it, and from there it will come down. But it is up to us all not to participate in that. All of it is creating all these emotional and mental health stresses that we are seeing emerging in new forms. It is up to each one of us to restrain ourselves digitally, to make that a safer space. मनुष्यानी मनुष्यांशी मनुष्यांसारखं डिजिटल एज मध्ये सुद्धा वागायला हवं. त्याच्यानंतर
What a wonderful talk. You know, same thing was quoted 2 days back by, we had the Chief Justice of Karnataka come here. He quoted the same thing. I think it's a big revelation this week for me personally. Whoever was here that day for the Chief Justice program, one of the things he mentioned is that all day long he's listening to the lawyers argue in court. And when he goes back home, he listens to his wife. So, you know, it was a good thing that we don't have anything to feel bad about. I think even the Chief Justice faces. And today I was expecting...
I have to protest on behalf of all women and all wives.
And today, I thought we've invited the grandmother of a 6-year-old, and when she went on the dais and, I could see that the child in her come out with the saree of a grandmother and the way. So it was so wonderful to see that child alive in you, Rohini. Thank you so much for being here. It was such an honor for us. Whenever we will do that, Sangeeta, just give me a minute, let me complete that. I would be the first one to stand up for her. In my childhood, I used to read a poem which I liked greatly. I think a lot of us must have read it, called Abu Ben Adam. It's about a tribesman who's, and so whenever I think about her, that poem comes into my mind so much that, you know, in just that he sees the angel and asks the angel, what are you writing? The angel says, I'm writing names of people who love the Lord. And he asks, is my name there? And he says, sorry, it's not. And few days later, the angel comes and he's again got a book of gold. And he's got a list of the people God loves the most. And Abu Ben's name is leading the list. So it's wonderful. एक मराठीतली कविता आहे विंदा करंदीकरांची. देणाऱ्याने देत असावं, आय थिंक घेणाऱ्याने घेत असावं, घेता घेता घेणाऱ्याने देणाऱ्याचे हात घ्यावे. The translation is that, you know, I wouldn't understand it. I asked Manjiri yesterday what was, so I assume that you are in the same boat, but sorry about that.
Sometimes translation can be more beautiful than original.
There we go. So let's have an opportunity to throw my English. The way she has been giving, I think one of the big reasons why I wanted Rohini here is for us to learn that art from her. You know, it takes a lot of brains, a lot of hard work, maybe a bit of luck to earn money, but it just takes a big heart to give it away. And if we learn that small quality from her, I think our lives will be much more better. Whether we have an impact on society is a different matter. I think we'll have an impact on ourselves. And it's so wonderful.
Also, Ajji, giving is the best gift you can give to yourself.
Absolutely.
And I'm not simply saying that. I have experienced it. So in some sense, we are wired to give. And that we are wired to give because it also gives us joy. Our endorphins are released. There are enough neurochemicals released from giving. That's why that's what makes human beings so special, that we are able to put ourselves in other people's shoes. And we can give, and receiving is more difficult than giving. But giving is also the best gift you can give to yourself.
Thank you. With that, I think she deserves a standing applause, please. I'd love to. We have a vote of thanks, but for the wonderful teenager who came to us today wearing a Ajji saree, I think it's been a fabulous experience.